To all of our viewers, and welcome to the next in our series of judicial candidate interviews for 2020. We're pleased to have with us Matthew Isaac Destry and Judge Frank David Ledee. Folks, welcome. My name is Robert Vaughan, President-elect of the Broward County Bar Association. And
my name is Beth Finizio. I'm a past president of the Broward County Women Lawyers Association. Okay, just to give you some reminders, candidates, each candidate will have 1 minute to introduce themselves and then go right into the question and answer session. At the end of the question and answer session, each candidate will have 1 minute to give a closing statement. You will have 1 minute to answer each question below. Whomever asks the question of you will be keeping the time and let you know when you have 15 seconds remaining.
We'll begin with opening statements, which is a 1 minute opening statement. Judge Ledee, if you would please, your 1 minute opening statement.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I'm Judge Frank Ledee. I'm the incumbent judge in Group 27. I've been a judge since December of 2018. Prior to that, I served as a prosecutor for 25 years. I was the chief of the gang prosecution unit. I speak 5 languages. I'm a long-term resident of Broward County. I've been here for close to 40 years. And I live in Hollywood, and I've been in Hollywood for the last 23 years. I am absolutely committed to the diversity of this county and to maintaining that diversity on the Broward County Circuit Bench. And I have the privilege of serving on the Unified Family Division at the moment.
So let's begin with our first question. If you would please describe to our viewers, why do you or did you wish to become a judge, and what are your professional and personal experience, more than the brief overview that you just gave us, that will serve you best on the bench?
I have the unique privilege of being a judge, and in that capacity, I have the ability to empower litigants, empower lawyers to solve problems. That is the key to my success from the beginning of my career through being a judge. I have that ability because I create that environment of reason and compromise in the courtroom. My ability to speak 5 different languages allows people to be comfortable in my courtroom and to actually work through their problems in my courtroom.
Please describe your legal experience and background, including your jury trial experience.
I've tried hundreds of cases. My last trial was a capital case where it involved the murder of a mother and her 6-year-old child on his birthday. It was known as the Spider-Man birthday party murders. And my strength has always been that I'm a trial attorney first. However, as the chief of the gang prosecution unit and as the commander of the gang strike force, I was out on the streets. I interacted with folks, and I had the privilege of being able to develop those relationships in the community that allowed me to do my job much more effectively.
The next question is, if you would please describe to the viewers, how many times have you each applied to be appointed to the bench, or how many times have you run for office, including the office of judge? And how many times have you been successful or unsuccessful in those attempts?
I applied for twice. I applied in 2018. I interviewed once, and that interview led to my appointment by the governor.
To what extent have you practiced or presided over the area of criminal law, family law, complex civil litigation, and how would you prepare to handle cases that involve areas of the law with which you were unfamiliar?
As you know, I was a prosecutor for 24 and a half years. So I have 24 and a half years of experience in criminal law. When I first got to the bench, I was placed into the foreclosure division. To give you an idea, I took the caseload probably in the upper or mid 5,000s. And when I left, it was at 3,500. When I took over the family law division in July of, it was 2019, I had about 1,250 cases. I was at 750 cases. I know how to handle caseloads. I can move cases, and my strength is that I rely on my attorneys, and I encourage my attorneys to help solve those problems.
Gentlemen, would you describe for us what forms of voluntary, professional, and community service you've each been respectively involved with in the past and present? And have you held any leadership roles in any of those organizations with which or in which you have served?
As you all know, I was appointed in 2016, in July of 2016, as a commissioner for the South Broward Hospital District, the Memorial Healthcare System. And when I actually took the bench in December of 2018, I was the treasurer for the organization. The decisions that I made, literally leading a 14,000 employee organization, have impacted and saved lives in Broward County. In addition to that, as you all know, I'm a member of numerous of the bars. Matter of fact, I think I'm probably a member of every bar, not quite, but almost every bar behind you. It is something that voluntary commitment was the best service that I did to Broward County.
Please describe the most challenging ethical dilemma you have ever encountered, and how did you handle it?
It was a situation where I had a colleague that was intoxicated, that came into court intoxicated. And under those circumstances, I had to address that issue because as a supervisor for the gang unit, although I was not the division prosecutor chief, but I had to handle it. I escorted the person out. I had a conversation. I went ahead and I brought it up to the superiors and had that conversation. And encouraged that person to get help. It's a lot more elaborate than that, but that was one of the hardest things that we had to do.
How will you, or how have you, contributed to promoting diversity on the Broward County bench?
My staff does speak multiple languages. I speak multiple languages. The beauty about being on the bench where I sit is I see folks that come in, whether you are Creole, Haitian, from Haiti, or you are Spanish, or you are French, they come in and I address them in their native tongue, if I can. And that makes them much more comfortable. That creates that environment of compromise that enhances my ability to empower them to solve those problems. So language is absolutely key to doing that. In addition to that, I reach out to the law students and I bring them in. And I have that conversation with them to empower them to see the importance of that cultural diversity as it's served on the bench.
Judge Ledee, do you believe that judges have an obligation to improve public perception and understanding of the court system? And if so, how will you carry out that obligation?
Actually, the better question is, how do I carry it now? I encourage my lawyers to develop a partnership between the judiciary and the legal community so that we can outreach and educate folks as to what they are to expect inside a courtroom and how to best get them there and make them feel comfortable. So it is absolutely critical that the judiciary and lawyers, the different bars, get together and promote what we do best and what is expected of the litigants. So it is incredibly important to do that. And I try to do that every day with my lawyers. As you all know, I reach out to my lawyers and I try to include them on everything that we do that deals with the public.
In keeping with the discussion that we're currently having, if you would please describe for our audience an example of what you think is something from your past individual experience that demonstrates that you will have the sensitivity as a judge to handle the multicultural community that you've both described here in Broward County that will appear before you, including ensuring equality of justice to people of all backgrounds who may at one point or another appear in your courtroom.
It's about building trust. It's about building trust within the community. I spent 25 years, not only in the courtroom, but in the streets. I know what it's like when you get a call from grandmother and she says, I'm sleeping in my bathtub because the gunshot's going off. Please help. That I know how to do. I've sat across from a table from a victim who has not eaten 2 days and that's looking at the bowl of candy more intensely than anything else on my desk. I know how to interact with those folks. I know what it's like for a mother to go ahead and to come to me and say, I avenged my child, my 6-year-old or my 7-year-old, because we had one in South Dade that the little kid was shot in the head. I know how to deal with those. So that's what I bring to the table on the bench.
Given the widespread protests in our country and knowing the requirements of judges to be politically neutral, is there a role for the judiciary in the current civil unrest?
The role of judiciary is what we do every day in court. Think about what they're saying. They want justice. They want to be heard. They want to be treated fairly. They want people to follow the law. And they want a decision, a ruling. That's what I do every single day. So I understand exactly what that means. And there are very, very few people that can actually bring in not only the level of experience I have, my cultural background, and that understanding. So yes, I understand exactly what that means. And I know that I live it in my courtroom every day.
For several years, I think you've both had the opportunity to experience that there has been mandatory diversity and sensitivity training for judges. Please describe a situation for us in your experience, either as a judge or as an advocate, where that type of diversity and sensitivity training or exposure you think would have assisted in mitigating or even avoiding an awkward or unfortunate or improper outcome.
This is where a trial lawyer excels. When I walk into a courtroom and I was a trial lawyer, I would tell the judge, and selecting a jury, the first thing I would say is that bias does not belong in the courtroom. It would conclude in an injustice. I was also one of the first division chiefs to bring in diversity training for my team, just to make sure that we were highlighting that and we were reinforcing that to the community. So I know exactly where it comes in. I've used it in court, and I've made sure that that never came in to one of my trials.
How do you plan to handle unprofessional conduct from persons or attorneys who appear before you, as well as unethical conduct by fellow judges that you become aware of?
In reality, it depends on the environment that you create in the courtroom. There will always be adversity, but if people know that they walk into my courtroom and they're going to be treated fairly and they're going to be listened to, that sets a different bar on there. It just raises the bar for professionalism. Now, if I have to, and I have to stop someone, I will. But I'm not going to embarrass someone. I will have a discussion afterwards. I will address it afterwards, but I'm not going to address or embarrass someone in front of a jury or in front of their client. It all depends on how you address the problem.
What experiences do you have that you can share with our viewers that will allow you to be able to supervise a staff and manage your docket, as well as what ideas do you have for clearing and moving old cases on your docket going forward?
As a chief of a gang unit, I had the largest team of lawyers and police officers assigned that worked with me. As the commissioner for the South Broward Hospital, I provided the strategic oversight for literally one of the highest quality hospital districts anywhere in the country, including Joe DiMaggio and Memorial Regional. As a judge, I am first thing, I have the best team in that courthouse. My bailiff, my clerk, and my JA are truly the best team in that courthouse. So the one difference is that from day one, I included my lawyers in the administration of justice in my courtroom, and I invited them to participate.
What sets you apart from the other candidates in your race?
I'm committed to this because I have a passion for the work that I do. I love what I do. I truly do. But the greatest gift that I can give back to my community is what I do every day in the courtroom by empowering folks to solve their own problems. And that is something that is, when you actually think about it, and people come before you and they have a dispute, and if I can tell them, listen, the solution is within you, and I can do that, it gives me that satisfaction. I have a lot of experience across the board, but that is my main goal. I would encourage everyone to go to the Supreme Court website and the JQC and read why and when Judge Destry resigned. The second component, I would encourage everyone to Google Judge Destry. That's all I need to say.
Is there anything that you think you could have done better or improved upon during your term? And do you believe that that contributed to you drawing opponents?
I'm not sure that we're quite clear why I drew opponents, but at this point in time, I can tell you, I continue to try to achieve something different inside my courtroom. I'll give you an example. Whenever I have pro se litigants coming in, I try to get them between 8 and 8:45 so I can get them out at 9 o'clock, so I can get the lawyers more time. This incident with COVID-19, I am going to institute that my UMCs and CMCs continue to be over COVID. So there are certain things that I can do better, that I will continue doing better.
Gentlemen, you have been most candid and most forthcoming. This is your final opportunity to use 1 minute to make your case to the voters about why you should be the person selected for Group 27. So Judge Ledee, I think you begin with closing statements.
It is my privilege. The most important vote that the voters are going to cast in this primary election are those that they're going to cast for their judges. The reason being is that the people that appear before us depend on us to go ahead and to make decisions based on the law, to be fair, to listen to them, and truly rule based on the law, not abuses of discretion, not sentencing people to astronomical time, but truly to follow the law and use their discretion judiciously. That's what I do every day. And yes, I was a prosecutor for 25 years. And yes, I'm a judge for 2.5. But if you look at me, you look at my record, not once have I ever been disciplined. Not once have I had any issue that would taint anything that I have done.
On behalf of all of the voluntary bar associations co-hosting this event, we thank you for your time and joining us.
And to our viewers, thank you all for watching. Gentlemen, thank you for your very candid responses and willing participation. And to all, have a good afternoon.